All right, good day. Welcome to the Sustainable Solar Podcast. My name is Idris Alaka, your founder and owner, and also the host of the podcast. Today we have an amazing guest, Mr. Antonio Crespi.
Yeah, thanks for having me. My name is Antonio Crespi, CEO of Crespi Tax Group. Been doing taxes for a little while now, been over 5 years. Been officially formatted or filed with the state for just about 3 years for Crespi Tax Group. But I'm happy to be here. Appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. Let's start off. How long have you been in that industry?
Yeah, so I've been filing taxes for just about over 5 years. Officially made the business Crespi Tax Group in 2019, and yeah, I've been servicing the whole nation. To be honest with you, we're based out of Long Island, so we service New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, but we are licensed for all 50 states. So I have clients in Florida, I have clients in Arizona, California, Illinois. So yeah, I mean, I love what I do, and I love helping people for sure. So it's a great industry for me to be in.
Nice. Okay. What would you say as far as personally, how do you benefit the most from as far as doing taxes, like personally, not like financially?
No, I mean, it's something that is to be financially literate is something that is really important to me. I love being able to provide that information about taxes, about finances to my demographic. I think that's something that is super important. Absolutely. Growing up, I definitely didn't receive any of that information. I guess in school, at home. That's something that we kind of got into through college, and something that I was very interested in. So I love just being able to provide that information to people. I've been on different other podcasts. I've done seminars for people, helping people buy homes, being knowledgeable financially or on the tax side as well, especially with the pandemic. So that's why I do what I do and why I love what I do.
Absolutely. Sure. And you kind of answered the question I was going to ask as far as like, how did you get into accounting?
Yeah.
But I know you mentioned a little bit about you kind of like going through the accounting process, helping people buy homes.
Yeah.
And I know you also deal with a lot of homeowners who, have solar.
Yeah.
And deal with tax credits and things of that nature as well.
For sure.
Just elaborate a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's people who come to me throughout the nation. Not just in the tri-state area. Predominantly, I'm based in the tri-state area, so that's where most of my clientele is. Nice. And they're trying to take advantage of the solar credits that they have from a tax perspective. Some people only go the solar route because of the tax credit, right? That's something that is beneficial to them. So we definitely being able to be knowledgeable, making sure they have the correct information, making sure that they're taken care of from a tax perspective is something that is my job as their accountant, as their tax professional, and making sure that we have the right information so that they can take advantage of that tax credit at the end of the year.
Nice. And what would you consider like your firm as being the difference? Like what makes your firm different than some others?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I mean, for me, I think that, during the pandemic, a lot of people, obviously we were all cooped up in a house, and being able to provide that content or that information or that education virtually, whether it's social media, whether it's Zoom, whether it's via FaceTime, phone call, whatever it might be, however I can have that conversation with the client, really separated myself from other tax professionals or other accountants. Normally, when it comes tax time, people gather up their documents, they walk down the street to their local tax guy, and they're sitting down, and they're having a conversation just like this. When we can do it virtually, we kind of switch it around, and we're able to have this conversation maybe via Zoom. And now I'm able to, instead of book 10 people a day, I'm able to book 25 people a day.
Absolutely.
So I'm able to give that service and reach more people now because everything is virtual.
Absolutely.
So that's definitely what separated me, especially in 2019 during the pandemic, and I'm sure we'll dive into that in a little bit, but that was really what separated me in being able to provide that service. Hey, listen, you don't have to gather up, be at the comfort of your home, and let's have that conversation about taxes and put you in the best situation, whether it's tax planning, whether it's just making sure you have certain goals that you want to reach. Maybe you want to buy a home in 2 to 3 years. Okay, let's set you up to make sure you can do that. And it's not just from a W-2 perspective as well. We have those conversations with businesses as well. So being able to provide that bookkeeping and those accounting service virtually is something that helps the business owners as well, right? They're able to give more time back into their business to generate more income because they don't have to worry so much about their tax from the tax perspective. So that's really what I think is kind of like our selling point. And listen, we can take care of you. You don't have to be at the comfort of your home or your office, and let's have that conversation and make sure that you're set up to be successful.
Absolutely. It's really great that companies like yours, also companies like ours as well, were able to make that transition during the pandemic as far as going virtual.
100%.
In the past 2 years or so, I've seen so many companies go out of business because they weren't able to make that transition.
Yeah.
From a personal standpoint or more from a business side, how do you feel that transition was as far as making the transition to virtual?
Yeah. So, it's interesting. It's interesting because from a tax perspective, when you think about accountants or when you think about tax professionals, I don't want to. You think about older people, right? And it's not something that they're able to adapt or make that pivot. So I think that it was really beneficial for me being able to make that pivot. Okay. But there's a lot of businesses who weren't, like you said, and they went out of business for it. So it wasn't easy for sure. That it was, especially with the pandemic, it was a big turning point for a lot of people. But it also brought out a lot of people who wanted to become business owners as well. Right? They were saying, hey, listen, I was getting furloughed from my job or I was getting laid off because of the pandemic. Let me start a little side business. So we saw businesses grow because of it and really flourish from the pandemic as well. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, right? You have people who couldn't make that transition and they suffered from it and their business suffered from it. But you have people who are like, hey, listen, this is something I could take advantage of. Like myself, like your business as well. Let me make this pivot, and they succeeded through it. So it's really interesting. The people who were able to make that pivot and transition to more virtual, to more online, to more social media content, they were able to be super successful. But there's also, accountants and tax professionals who weren't able to, right? Because they have that brick and mortar, and they're like, listen, no clients are walking into this store right now to file their taxes this year because everything is virtual. Absolutely. So it was an interesting time. I got to be honest with you. It was a very interesting time. But I think that being a millennial, I guess, or just being of the younger crowd, I like to say I'm young, I guess, but just being of that younger crowd, it benefited me, and being able to appeal to those type of people as well.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Would you say your clientele is more older, younger?
Yeah. So it kind of ranges. I'll be honest with you. If I'm thinking about it, I think that majority of my clientele are probably between the ages of, I would say 25 to 35, I would say. So it is kind of that millennial base. A lot of them, the biggest conversations that we're having is, how do I get into a home? I mean, that is the biggest conversation when people come to me, whether it's couples, whether it's singles. How do I get into a home? How do I set myself up? And you'll see a lot of small business owners, they have to handle their tax situation differently than how a person who's receiving a W-2 can receive it, right? Okay. You, as a business owner, and you probably know this, right? You're making your income. You're not paying any tax on any of that money that's coming in, right? So at the end of the year, when you go to file your taxes, let's just say you made $100,000 that year. Well, you have to pay tax on that $100,000, right? At the end of the year, all in one lump sum. So the way that they're thinking is, listen, I'm making all this money now. It's great. Like, I can purchase a home. It's like, okay, well, when you go to a bank to go apply for a mortgage, you have to bring your tax returns, right? The past 2 years. So we have to file your taxes. So like, okay, well, I made $100,000 this year. Well, on $100,000, you're going to owe about $25,000 back, just not claiming any expenses or any deductions. So that's something that was a new world for people, right? It's a new world for people. So being able to provide that education or that knowledge to them was very beneficial for me in growing my clientele as well. So that 25 to 35 age is really, it's really the bulk of my clientele for sure. And that's the conversations that I'm having with them as well. How do we get you into a home? Or how do we get you out of debt? How do we fix your credit? All those type of conversations are the type of conversations that I'm having with them for sure.
Well, Antonio, that was some great information so far. We're going to take a quick break and come back to the Sustainable Solar Podcast.
They were very helpful, to answer any of the questions we may have been concerned with, like tax rebates or, how do we use the apps on the phone to actually, see how much energy we're expending and using and giving to the community, so to speak.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Sustainable Solar Podcast. And once again, we have Mr. Crespi here going through so much amazing information. And just picking up where we left off, I know you mentioned that you are actually appealing to maybe more of a younger demographic, would you say?
For sure.
And, what we don't really see, or at least I don't, in today's day and age is accountants really, promoting their services through social media, which I've seen that you guys have done an amazing job. How do you make accounting, right, appealing to the younger demographic?
Yeah,
demographic.
It's really a great question. I think that because of the pandemic, right, people had to become a little bit more innovative when it comes to marketing. It's not just put an ad in a newspaper or get an ad on a radio. You have to become more creative because you want to appeal to different demographics. You think about all the social media platforms that are out there. You got TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. There's so many different avenues now where you can appeal to people. And these people are on these platforms looking for information. There's so many different, just like you guys starting a podcast, there's so many different podcasts out there. There's so many different financial avenues where you can gain knowledge from those platforms. So I think that I really tied on to that, and we're trying to reach, my demographic, which is, to be honest with you, the minorities of the world who are between 18 and 35 years old, right? That's who I'm appealing to, and making sure that they're knowledgeable when it comes to taxes. So when it comes to like marketing, you see, you kind of see what the trends are when it comes to Instagram Reels, when it comes to TikToks, what's cool. And I'm not dancing on any TikToks, trust me. But, you're providing, but you're providing that information, right? You want to provide that information through those platforms. So it's reaching those people, right? Because those are the platforms that they're on. So you kind of tailor your marketing to what is working for the world, right? You'll see even the biggest people in the world, the Kevin Harts, The Rock, Nike, Puma, all these people that are on these platforms, and that's how they're marketing nowadays. So really kind of seeing what the blueprint is from these other people, and kind of just tailoring it to myself. Like you said, there's not a lot of, and there are some really big accountants and CPAs and tax professionals who are big on social media. And me kind of just tailoring it to myself. I have a girlfriend who is big on social media as well, and she really pushes that as well out of me. Nice. Making sure that I'm on the Reels, I'm on the TikToks, making sure I'm providing that information that way, just because that's what's going to reach the masses. Absolutely. And that's what's going to help you, one, grow the business, but it's also going to make you get the message out to the masses as well, so that people are more informed and that they're making smarter decisions when it comes to taxes, finances, whatever it might be.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. So much great information. I know you mentioned that the transition really took place during the pandemic.
Yeah.
So obviously there's a lot of conversation about the pandemic and how it's affected a lot of businesses, which I'm sure you got a chance to see kind of like firsthand.
For sure.
But how did the pandemic really affect your business?
Yeah. Another great question. So the pandemic really helped skyrocket the business, to be completely honest with you. I know that it was a really sad time for a lot of people, but for me and my business specifically, it was a really good time. I was able to provide information because there were so many different things that were going on during the pandemic, from stimulus payment 1, stimulus payment 2, unemployment, additional unemployment income that they were going to be able to take advantage of. People wanted to file their taxes because they were able to receive stimulus money in their tax returns, but you have some people who haven't filed their taxes for years before. So there was a lot of different things that I was able to provide that education or that information about during the pandemic. And everybody was at home and they were thinking about, man, either I got laid off or I got furloughed, or I just started a small business, tax somehow, some way is incorporated into that. So I have to make sure that I am, and I'm speaking as the customer here. I have to make sure that my tax situation is in place. Also, you think about solar, right? Buying a home, interest rates drop to an all-time low. So people are like, listen, I could purchase a home right now, right? I got a little money from stimulus payment, right? So I have a little money for a down payment. Now the interest rates are 2.5%. I can afford a home for me and my family now. So people are like, hey, listen, I need to file my tax return so that I can go to the mortgage lender and say, hey, listen, I want to purchase a home. So all these different it's kind of like the perfect storm for me. All these different things happen, and I'm able to provide information and education around these specific topics that are hot right now. You couple that with being on social media and being able to provide, a little bit of a twist to the marketing from an accountant perspective. Pair that with me being virtual, so I can have that conversation via Zoom, via FaceTime, via on the phone, and we can take care of you. Really, we can file a tax return in 24 hours, really from when you submit your documentation on our website. So kind of all those things kind of mixed together, it was kind of like the perfect storm. And it really did help us and skyrocket us from where we were the previous year. And it was a blessing, to be completely honest with you. We definitely benefit from it. We're still trying to ride the momentum from that pandemic and continue to grow.
Absolutely. And as far as like riding that momentum, obviously there's some things that changed in your business from the pandemic. So what are some of the things, or name one or two that you've changed that you're still actually doing today? Yeah.
So that was a great question too. So I mean, with that success, obviously comes more responsibility, right? So there was at some point where I can manage it all myself. It's like I can do the advertising, I can do the billing, I can do the marketing, I can do the actual tax return, I can provide a webinar, I can do all these different things by myself. But as you continue to grow, you need people and you need help, right? You can't do it all yourself because you're spread too thin.
Correct.
So one of the big, I hired my first employee actually underneath the business after the pandemic because I needed the help. I mean, we just have so many different avenues that we can take it. I have to kind of offset some of the workload so I can continue to grow.
Correct.
So that was one of the biggest things for me. And, I have a mentor who helps me out so much when it comes to like business advice. And he's like, your time is your most valuable asset. So you're going to be you're spreading yourself a little bit too thin. You have to be able to allocate something to someone else so that you can get some time back, so that you can focus it and you can continue to grow that way. So that's something that, I think about all the time and that I'm currently doing now. So we're hiring 2 more people this upcoming tax season because we anticipate to continue to grow. So I'm proud of myself to be able to provide jobs to people in my community who want to be financially literate, who want to maybe take that path to be a tax professional or an accountant. So that's something that I pride myself in as well. The second thing, I guess the biggest thing for me is kind of doing what we're doing right now and having being on these speaking engagements. So I've done some webinars before, some for small businesses. I did my first homeowners home buyer seminar a few weeks back with a friend of mine who we partnered with. So really trying to get out and educate more. One thing that is on my list and on my bucket list to do by the end of the year this year is really have a conversation in the schools, talk to the kids about taxes, talk to the kids about financial literacy, because I mean, that's really where it all starts. You don't have people going into schools or talking to kids about, how to set yourself up, how to have a good credit score by the time you're 18, how to make sure you're filing your taxes for your first job. So these are things that are important to me. I have a son myself. I preach them to him, so I want to preach them to his friends as well,
Absolutely.
So those are the 2 big things that really help, that really kind of changed for me. And I kind of expanded my business and just what I do and making sure I focus on those things as well.
Awesome. So, those were 2 great points. And I want to be the first to kind of congratulate you. You employing your community is huge, right? So congratulations on your current growth and also your future growth as well.
Much appreciated.
That's definitely huge. And with that, we'll take a quick break from the Sustainable Solar Podcast, and we'll be back in a few. Hey, thanks for watching this video. Please hit the subscribe and hit that bell to be informed about more videos just like this. If you like this video, please like, comment, and share. We would definitely love to hear your thoughts. Take care and have a bright day.